What is up, my dudes and dudettes? Thank you so much for joining us. Behind that camera is my lovely assistant, Colleen, and I am your host, Todd. And if you are new here, we make these outlandishly insightful YouTube videos of us converting this cargo van you see behind me here into the ultimate adventure vehicle on wheels. Where we're standing today, this should be no shocker. We're gonna talker about this rocker locker. You can buy these off the shelf from companies like Agency 6 and Flatline Van Co, but we felt there were a few compromises, and to be honest, the cost is quite high for a few pieces of laser cut sheet metal. So we decided to do what we always do, and we made our own. We're gonna go over some of these design details as well as how we install these on our van, and who knows, if enough people like it, maybe we'll sell these without the van tax. Anyways, that's enough of the banter. Let's go ahead and get right into it. In order to get this project started, we'll first need to find the inner piece. Sorry, I just can't help myself sometimes. Anyways, it's this inner piece, which is actually two pieces that index together. I'll be using this as my template for the holes, so I'll need to tape them together so it'll be easier to position this on the side of the van. I made the rocker locker to maximize space yet follow the curves of the van. Because of this, it's super important for me to get the template positions correct because there's not a lot of margin for error here. For lateral positioning, I used the body line and set the pieces 0.2 inches off of it. For vertical position, it was actually easier for me to use the lower edge of the trim piece since the body panel is so curved here, of which I offsetted down a ½ an inch. With the template in place, I marked the 12 holes with a Sharpie, and since the rest of these next details you've seen time and time again on our channel, enjoy some tunes and some tight, crispy shots. I'll be back if there's anything in particular I need to call out. Sorry, Charlie, I'm back already. When drilling holes in your van like this, it's important to not push too hard and let the drill bit do the work. You can dent your van pretty easily with a point load like this. Since the studs are already attached to the trim ring on my design, there's not as much leeway for where these holes need to be because the studs are more constrained in angular space when compared to a through bolt. So I need to check fitment, and on any of the holes that collide with the studly studs, well, they need to be opened up a bit more. Since we actually want the cut line to be a little bit outside of this drawn Sharpie mark in order to hide the edge between our two pieces, I put some tape about 1/16 off this line. This serves a dual purpose of being our new cut line and also protecting the paint a little bit. I drilled holes in each corner with a step bit big enough for the blade of our beloved air saw to fit into. I left this clip in real time so you can see how easy and smooth it is to cut with this pneumatic noteworthy nicety. Pretty sweet, eh? Alright, let's pick up the pace. After I cut out a majority of the middle section, I went to carefully clean up the corners. These are a little too tight in the radii, even for the air saw to make the cut in one fell swoop, so I needed to kind of chew it out in little bits at a time. It doesn't need to be perfect though, because I come back later and clean these up with a file, and these edges are actually sitting behind the outer trim ring, so they are hidden from view. Now, however, I don't mean to go full Silicon Valley on your asses, but I'm reminded of a story of young Steve Jobs. When young Steve Jobs was asked by his father to paint a fence, Steve only painted the outside of that fence, but his father insisted that he paint both sides. His father told him, "But you will know," emphasizing the importance of personal standards and taking pride in one's work, even if others might not see it. Okay, let me step off my soapbox here. The last thing I did after cleaning up the metal edges was to drill the holes for the hinges at 7/30 seconds and made sure to deburr them from the inside and outside. I'm going to be painting the inside of these boxes so the whole thing looks completely finished like it was always there. However, on the inside of these panels there's a ton of wax Mercedes sprays to help shed water to the weep holes and prevent rust. I've seen people paint over this, but the finished product is not that great, and the wax with the paint scrapes off easily if you're pulling stuff in and out of these lockers. For the edge treatment, we're using the leftover Sika Primer 207 from the Flare Space install because it's the only rust prevention that we have that's black. This helps hide the edges even more. For the holes, however, we turned to our old friend Rust Bullet. We made a great YouTube short on our painting method if you want to check that out. I then proceeded to mask off the entire area with craft paper and painter's tape. I'm not taking any chances with overspray here for how expensive this van was, says the guy who just cut a giant hole in it. I had some leftover Rust-Oleum matte black paint from another home project, so I see a rocker locker and I painted black. It's amazing I have any subscribers. To install the rocker locker, it takes 12 serrated lock nuts. I took the main exterior piece, lined it up with the holes, and inserted it slightly. Then I took the front inner trim piece and put it inside the box. The only difficult nut to set is this one in the upper top corner. I needed to pull back the stud, slide in the nut between it and the body panel, put the stud back in to capture it, and then tighten it. I used Loctite on each nut and proceeded to get them all loosely installed, including on the back trim piece. Once everything was in, I used a wrench to start tightening them a bit at a time in a circular motion, making sure the entire outer trim was snugging up against the van in a uniform fashion. Moving right along to the hinges, I used ones that also had studs for a studly and fastener-free look from the outside of the van. I secured these loosely to the van, first with 4 washers and nylock nuts. Then came the door with the additional 4 washers and nuts. As I tightened everything up, I kept checking to make sure the hinges felt free and smooth. If they are twisted off axis, that can feel a little sticky icky. For the closure mechanism, I went with a cam lock. I originally made the prototype door with just a twisting lock, but this whole rocker surface really isn't that flat, so to get a good seal, you need to pull everything in a bit. I also went with the sealed type. Did you seal what I did there? My wife is on the couch behind me, shaking her head in approval. No one loves my puns or my buns for that matter more than her. Now she's really shaking her head. Anyways, last step here, I took some nice waterproof chemical resistant adhesive back close cell foam and applied it to the inner piece overlaps. These cavities are not 100% waterproof by design from Mercedes, but this does keep excess water and moisture out and seals up the door at least. And that brings us to the end here. It's time to sit back, relax, admire your new rocker lockers, and enjoy a nice cold San Pellegrino Acqua Internazionale. One day I'll get sponsored, right? Well, my friends, our time together is coming to an end. We think that these rocker lockers turned out absolutely so fresh, so clean, and everything in between. If there's anything that I would do differently, I would probably coat the inside of this cavity with a 2-component Raptor bed liner just so that it's as tough as a 1-week-old bagel. If you like what we are doing, go ahead and give this video and all the other videos on our channel a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, you can drop those down below. And if the spirit moves you on your way down there, slap that subscribe button. We'll see you next time. Ultimate adventure vehicle on wheels. There is a car. Always am your host, Todd, and today is a good day. And so we made our own.